Hey folks, welcome back. So, we are in the fifth chapter of this Tableau series, and I hope you folks are with me so far. So, we started with something very basic, and slowly we are building on that. Before we proceed further into visualization, I wanted to introduce to you two ways of cleaning up data in Tableau. So, the main goal of this session is to look at some techniques to transform on and clean your input data. Now, just before we get too ahead in the game, a disclaimer. I personally don't use this feature very much as I find that these tools don't always work as expected, but it's a good idea to get acquainted with them. So if the data cleanup is something that is very complex, I would rather do it in a database rather than doing that complexity in the data interpreter and in the Tableau layers. But in any case, let me go ahead and show you a few techniques and see how those tools work with each other. All right, so I'm going to open my Tableau workbook. It's the same workbook which we have been working so far in the previous lectures, and I'm going to go ahead and just open the same Excel file that shipped along with Tableau and which we were using in the previous lectures. All right, so we were using the World Bank indicators, and before I play too much with it, let me go ahead and create a copy of that so that we can kind of manipulate some data. And what I'm going to do over here is let me just create a new sheet, and I'll call this as Multisheet. Now imagine that you get Excel file which has, now if you look at all these Excel files, all these tabs, it's actually nicely formatted. You know that the first row is the number of columns, then is your data, and so on and so forth, right? But what if you don't get it in that format, right? Many times in Excel you'll get multiple tables in a sheet with some commentary and stuff, and then it's not that easy to just connect to that and then pull in the data. So let me just go ahead and show you a few things. So let's imagine that you have a table, something like this, right? And looks like this. Let me go ahead and format this a little bit. Okay, let's do some bold, something like this, right? So this is how you get it, and let me just make sure that the first row has some data in it. All right, so this is one table you get, and let's assume that there is one more table. Let's say this one, right? Data, whatever, data by world, and I'll go ahead and just paste that here. So now you have two tables. So naturally it's not a simple just connect and use it kind of a framework. So I'll go ahead and just make this look a little bit more prettier, and then we can play around with this. All right, that's good. And then let me just format this a little bit more. All right, so you see that we have now two tables, just one below the other, and visually when we see, we know that this is table 1 with 3 columns, this is table 2, and so on and so forth. But how does Tableau recognize that, right? So if it's something very simple, Tableau has some tools which will help you do that. So let me go ahead and just connect to my Excel sheet. All right, so we have these two tables in Excel, and let me just go ahead and quickly connect to Tableau. So I'll go to my data source and then make a new data connection and then connect to my Excel file. Before I do that, I need to make sure I have saved this file. And all right, and then I'll go ahead and just quickly connect to the new data source, and that's Excel and my copy. All right, so once I connect to this, it is actually showing me a couple of things, right? So it's showing me all the tabs, and you see this new tab appearing over here called Multisheet. But if I just drag and drop Multisheet over here, it is basically going to give me some weird data, because what it's doing is it's actually detecting a couple of other columns in this. All right, so just one more thing that I just paused the video and just added a new column and called it US-int, and I'll get back to this soon on why I added a separate column. I wanted to show you something else. All right, so it's basically treating this as one big table, And this is where the trick comes, right? So now if you use a data interpreter, it runs some algorithms where basically it'll kind of detect that there are two tables in the Excel file, and it'll actually split it. So if you see, it has actually created multi-sheet A1 to C20, and that's basically your top table. That is this table, right? And then the next one that it created is this particular table. So if I drag and drop A26 onwards, it'll actually show you this table. So you see that for smaller things, it's kind of fine. Like it actually detected two tables and then intelligently detected the column names and stuff. So yes, so at times it's helpful. Sometimes it just goes a little bit weird. So make sure that you properly test the data. You look at the data and stuff before proceeding. Um, Before I conclude, the one thing that I wanted to kind of talk about is this particular column I added. The reason being that I wanted to show you something called as custom split. And what it does is, if you see this values, it's US hyphen int, and there are two words over here separated by hyphen. So it can be separated by comma, semicolon, any other character that you want. But the idea is, if you want to split this into two different columns, there is something called as custom split, where you can just say that split by hyphen, split the first part, second part, or all the parts, right? So I'm going to say all the parts, and when I click OK, it'll just split into two columns, and I can go ahead and kind of rename that. Let me just rename it and call it as US code or something, whatever is, whatever you want. Basically, I just wanted to show you that as well. So yeah, mainly two things. We looked a little bit about the data interpreter, and then we looked at how to split this as well. So hope that this helps, at least in cleaning up some basic data. So yeah. All right, so there you go. So now you have a few more tools in your pocket to clean up the data. Again, use this with discretion and always check if the data interpreter results are as per your expectations. So again, we looked at a couple of things over here, and I think you should be very comfortable right now to import data, play around with it, manipulate it, blend it, join the data, building some basic reports out there, trying out visualizations and stuff. So I think we have laid out the foundations pretty strong now. So what we'll do is we'll look at some more advanced concepts like building calculations and a few charts and stuff like that. So I think once you are acquainted with that, you'll have enough tools in your pocket to go ahead and do some very complex analysis, or even apply for a job as a reporting analyst or something like that, so that you at least know that given a set of data, wherever it resides, you know what to do, how to aggregate that, how to build some story around that, and how to build some beautiful graphs. So hope that's helping you so far. If not, leave me a comment or connect with me via my website, and we'll see what we can do. Thank you.